Hello, today is Tuesday, June 10th, 2025, right? June 10th. That's good word, June 10th. This article is from CBS News and is about demonstrations in Los Angeles which seem to spread quickly throughout the United States. Let's learn more about what it is all about and why the people are demonstrating and why President Trump is trying to crack down on them, right? Let's hear both the stories from both sides. The title is What to Know About the Los Angeles Immigration Protests Over ICE Operations, right? ICE stands for Immigration Crackdown Enterprise. I don't know. Immigration, cocaine. No, that's not it. Immigration, I don't know. That's about immigration crackdown, right? Illegal immigration crackdowning. Updated on June 9th. Tensions in Los Angeles escalated Sunday as thousands of protesters took to the streets in response to President Trump's deployment of the National Guard, blocking up a major freeway and setting self-driving cars on fire as law enforcement used tear gas, rubber bullets, and flashbangs to control the crowd, right? To control the crowd. California Governor Gavin Newsom said Monday that his office intends to sue the Trump administration for deploying the Guard without consulting him, a move he called illegal and immoral in a social media post Sunday. In another post Monday morning, Newsom said Mr. Trump illegally acted to federalize the National Guard, adding, "We are suing him." As of midday Monday, 53 people have been arrested, officials said. The LAPD said it had arrested 31 people on a range of charges, including failure to disperse, objects and fireworks thrown at officers, looting, and arson. California Highway Patrol had arrested 17 people, and Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department made 5 arrests, the agencies told CBS News. Los Angeles Police Chief Jim McDonald on Sunday addressed the complaints accusing the police department of responding too slowly to the unrest. "We can't participate in any way in civil immigration enforcement," McDonald said. He reminded reporters that police must comply with the California Values Act, a Los Angeles Sanctuary City Ordinance, also known as SB 54, which prevents local and state law enforcement agencies from assisting federal immigration enforcement activity, right? Immigration Enforcement, ICE. On Sunday, many protesters dispersed as evening fell, and police declared an unlawful assembly, a precursor to officers moving in and arresting people who don't leave. A precursor, right? But some of those remaining threw objects at police from behind a makeshift barrier that spanned the width of a street, and others hurled chunks of concrete, rocks, electric scooters, and fireworks at California Highway Patrol officers and their vehicles parked on the closed southbound 101 freeway. Officers ran under an overpass to take cover, right? To take cover. That's good expression. Officers ran under an overpass to take cover. Officers ran under an overpass to take cover. Officers ran under an overpass to take cover. CBS News Los Angeles reported that several fires were set in dumpsters and trash bins, and at least one store had windows shattered by alleged looters. Dozens of buildings were tagged with graffiti, including the LAPD headquarters, the U.S. courthouse, and the old Los Angeles Times building. Footage from the CBS News Los Angeles helicopter showed that multiple windows of the police headquarters had been shattered as well. That's terrible. Separately, San Francisco police reported 60 arrests Sunday night. Police said people were taking part in First Amendment activities, but then began committing crimes ranging from assault to felony vandalism and causing property damage. An unlawful assembly was declared, but several people kept engaging in illegal activity, police said. 2 officers were hurt, though the injuries weren't life-threatening. Police said the demonstrators then vandalized the buildings, a police cruiser, and other property, and officers began arresting people who didn't comply with the dispersal order. LA demonstrations intensified. Sunday's protests in Los Angeles, a sprawling city of 4 million people, were centered in several blocks of downtown. It was the third and most intense day of demonstrations against Mr. Trump's immigration crackdown in the region, as the arrival of around 300 guard troops spurred anger and fear among many residents. The guard was deployed specifically to protect federal buildings, including the downtown detention center, where the protesters concentrated. Los Angeles Police Chief Jim McDonald said officers were overwhelmed by the remaining protesters. He said they included regular agitators who show up at demonstrations to cause trouble. Dozens of people were arrested throughout the weekend of the protest. Wow, the police car is on the fire. A California Highway Patrol officer pulls an electric scooter off a vehicle on a highway as protesters threw objects at police vehicles near the Metropolitan Detention Center in downtown Los Angeles on June 8, 2025. Mr. Trump responded to McDonald on Truth Social, telling him to arrest protesters in face masks. Looking really bad in LA, bringing in the troops, he wrote. Starting in the morning, the troops stood shoulder to shoulder, carrying long guns and riot shields as protesters shouted, "Shame and go home." After some closely approached the guard members, another set of uniformed officers advanced on the group, shooting smoke-filled canisters into the street. Minutes later, the LA police fired rounds of crowd control munitions to disperse the protesters, who they said were assembled unlawfully. Much of the group had moved to block traffic on the 101 freeway until the state patrol officers cleared them from the roadway by late afternoon. Nearby, at least 4 self-driving Waymo cars were set on fire, sending large plumes of black smoke into the sky and exploding intermittently as the electric vehicles burned. By evening, the police had issued an unlawful assembly order, shutting down several blocks of downtown Los Angeles. Flashbangs echoed out every few seconds into the evening. I feel tired in my head, so I'm going to snooze a little bit. How the demonstration started? Yeah, I just snoozed for 15 minutes. I'm back. The arrival of the National Guard followed 2 days of protests that began Friday in downtown Los Angeles before spreading on Saturday to Paramount, a heavily Latino city south of the city, and neighboring Compton. Federal agents arrested immigrants in LA's fashion district, in a Home Depot parking lot, and several other locations on Friday. The next day, they were staging at a Department of Homeland Security office near another Home Depot in Paramount, which drew out protesters who suspected another raid. Federal authorities later said there was no enforcement activity at that Home Depot. The week-long tally of immigrant arrests in the LA area climbed above 100. Federal authorities said many more were arrested while protesting, including a prominent union leader who was accused of impeding law enforcement. One of the officials saying Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom requested that Mr. Trump remove the Guard members in a letter Sunday afternoon, calling their deployment a serious breach of state sovereignty. He was in Los Angeles meeting with local law enforcement and officials. The deployment appeared to be the first time in decades that a state's National Guard was activated without a request from its governor, a significant escalation against those who have sought to hinder the administration's mass deportation efforts. Newsom and Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass blamed the increasingly aggressive protests on the president's decision to deploy the Guard, calling it a move designed to inflame tensions. They've both urged protesters to remain peaceful. What we are seeing in Los Angeles is chaos that is provoked by the administration, Bass said in an afternoon press conference. This is about another agenda. This isn't about public safety. But McDonald, the LAPD chief, said the protests were following a similar pattern for episodes of civil unrest, with things ramping up in the second and third days. He pushed back against the claims by the Trump administration that the LAPD had failed to help federal authorities when protests broke out Friday after a series of immigration raids. His department responded as quickly as it could and had not been notified in advance of the raids and therefore was not prepositioned for protests, he said. Newsom, meanwhile, has repeatedly said that California authorities had the situation under control. He mocked Mr. Trump for posting a congratulatory message to the Guard on social media before troops had even arrived in Los Angeles, and said on MSNBC that Mr. Trump never floated deploying the Guard during a Friday phone call. He called the president a stone-cold liar. Stone-cold Austin, right? A stone-cold liar. The admonishments didn't deter the administration. It's a bold-faced lie for Newsom to claim there was no problem in Los Angeles before President Trump got involved, White House spokesperson Abigail Jackson said in a statement. The military has put about 700 Marines on high alert to possibly deploy to Los Angeles, 3 U.S. officials told CBS News on Monday, 2 days after Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth said they could be sent to the city if violence continues. The Marines could be mobilized in the coming days to support National Guard troops already in the city, the officials said. When asked what the threshold is for sending in the Marines, Mr. Trump said Sunday, "The bar is what I think it is." The bar is what I think it is, right? Threshold. Not threshold is a threshold, right? Koreans pronounce it threshold, but actually it's a threshold. Democratic California Representative Maxine Waters on Sunday strongly rebuked the president's decision to deploy the National Guard, calling the situation outrageous and horrible, and adding that she believes Mr. Trump is using LA, a sanctuary city, as an example. He is using deportation as a way to enhance his position with all those right-wingers out there who do not want this country to be a country of people coming from other places. The Democrat told a reporter outside the Metropolitan Detention Center, "I think he's up to creating martial law." Former Vice President Kamala Harris also condemned the Trump administration's actions in LA on Sunday, calling the deployment of the National Guard a dangerous escalation meant to provoke chaos. In addition to the recent ICE raids in Southern California and across our nation, it is a part of the Trump administration's cruel, calculated agenda to spread panic and division, said Harris, who also previously served as a senator and attorney general of California. This administration's actions are not about public safety. They are about stoking fear of a community demanding dignity and due process. Some perspective on the protests. The protests didn't reach the size of past demonstrations that brought the National Guard to Los Angeles, including the Watts and Rodney King riots and the 2020 protests against police violence, in which Newsom requested the assistance of federal troops. The last time the National Guard was activated without a governor's permission was in 1965, when President Lyndon B. Johnson sent troops to protect a civil rights march in Alabama, according to Brennan Center for Justice. Right? Well, so after 60 years, the national troops were brought in to Los Angeles, and terrible. And I heard that protests are spreading throughout the United States, which is terrible. I hope all the issues are resolved and the illegal immigrants are evicted. Thanks for listening. Have a wonderful Tuesday.